Hello, so this is for the subject risk management, and we are now on chapter 4, subtopic development of risk management. Okay, so let's go ahead with the contents. First subtopic, origins of risk management. Okay, so pinagsimulan talaga ng risk management, kauna-unahan is the insurance management function. Kumbaga, with the existence of hazard risk, na exposed naman ang halos lahat ng tao, ang lahat ng businesses. So, the insurance concept was the first developed way of addressing risk, in particular nga is hazard risk. Okay, and then later on, of course, they realized that there are other types of risk na exposed ang businesses. And so, they tried to address that and na-develop ang risk management over time. Okay? But, let's see. Organizations realized that purchasing insurance was insufficient kasi nga yung insurance, hazard risk lang ang covered niya. And if there was also inadequate attention to the protection of property and people. Okay? So, there are other risks na nakaka-affect sa property, people, and operations ng business. Okay? And then, another thing that they are concerned about, kasi nga, nung bago pa lang din yung insurance concept, and the companies. So, medyo may mga, tawag dito, hindi naman loopholes, but there are certain cons, na, let's say, yung sa pagkiklaim, evidences needed before you're able to get the benefits. And of course, merong mga tao na in-abuse, yung weaknesses ng implementation of insurance claims before. Ayan. So, nagkaroon ng, over time, naging strict ang mga insurance companies. And then, nagkaroon na rin sila ng mga certain requirements before you can avail of the insurance protection. Ayan. So, naging concerned sila with the quality of property protection, standards of health and safety, product liability issues, and other risk control concerns. Okay? Yung combined approach to risk financing and risk control na develop siya sa Europe in the 1970s, concept of total cost of risk became important. Okay? Total cost of risk. Okay? So, kumbaga, hindi naman integration, but in a way, you consolidate or you take into account all the types of risks that the business is exposed to, and then yung possibility nga ng, you have your likelihood and impact, the chances of it happening, and the amount that the company could lose or would have to spend kapag nag-occur yung particular situation na yun. Okay? So, insurance is now seen as one of the risk control techniques, but it is only applicable to a portion of hazard risk. Okay, so you have your other risk pa, control and opportunity risk. Alright? So, dito sa table 4.1, we have the definitions of risk management based on various organizations. So, we have ISO Guide 73, ang kanyang definition ng risk management. Coordinated activities to direct and control an organization with regard to risk. Okay? So, coordinated meaning, para siyang teamwork. Hindi lang isang department ang responsible for the risk na kinakaharap ng isang business. Every department and every level of management, every employee would have a role to play in the risk management. So it is a coordinated activities from, top to bottom, and everyone is involved. And then you have your Institute of Risk Management process which aims to help organizations understand, evaluate, and take action on all their risks with a view to increasing the probability of success and reducing the likelihood of failure. Okay? So, binanggit dito yung, yung process din, ng risk management. So, first, you have to understand yung situation ng business. And then, you have to evaluate, identify, and analyze yung mga risks na present in the organization. And then, take action, yung risk treatment na. on those risks. Tapos, the main point nga on why they're doing the risk management is to increase the probability of success. Maiwasan yung disruption in the operations, maiwasan yung mag-suffer ng losses, maiwasan yung pagkasira ng reputation, di ba? And reduce the likelihood of failure nga. So, more success, less failure. Okay? HM Treasury, all the processes involved in identifying, assessing, judging risk, assigning ownership, taking actions to mitigate or anticipate them, and monitoring and reviewing progress. Okay? So, yung risk management process pa rin siya, from identification of risk, and then you assess the risk, and then after assessment, you judge kung anong gagawin sa kanila, assigning ownership, sino yung kumbaga magiging responsible dito. Although, yes, the whole of the company should be involved, but you have your focal person, yung main person na magko-coordinate ng lahat ng activities. Okay? And then you take actions to mitigate and anticipate them. Ano yung gagawin? To control the risk. Okay? And then you have your monitoring and reviewing ng progress. Okay? Have to see kung gumagana ba yung controls na ginamit natin, yung treatment na ginamit natin, nabawasan ba or nawala ba yung risk or yung supposed negative effect niya, na prohibit ba? Okay? So, ayan. Na-inhibit. Next, we have London School of Economics, ang kanilang definition ng risk management. Selection of those risks a business should take and those which should be avoided or mitigated, followed by action to avoid or reduce risk. Okay? Etong risk a business should take, this refers to opportunity risk. And then yung should be avoided or mitigated, you have your hazard and control risk. So, selection of those risks, ang kanyang definition, tapos followed by action, the process ng activities to avoid or reduce those risks. Tapos, under Business Continuity Institute, ang kanilang definition ng risk management, culture, processes, and structures that are put in place to effectively manage potential, opportunities, and adverse effects. Okay? So, binanggit dito kasama yung culture. In a way, kapag established na yung company and incorporated na yung risk management in their processes, it would become part of the culture eventually. Processes, structures to effectively manage potential opportunities and adverse effects. Yeah. Essentially, management of risk. Okay, so ang focus nitong chapter daw is, kina-consider pala nitong chapter na to yung nature of risk management, and we had the definitions, and established stages that build into the risk management process. Okay? Ito yung importance naman ng risk management. We have table 4.2. Sa pag-manage ng organization, ito yung mga, in a way, benefits or, importance. Variable cost or availability of raw materials, diba? Since directly involved sa operation ng company, pag-produce ng products, so you have to make sure na available yung raw materials, okay? Kasi once na ba-disrupt yung availability ng raw materials, disrupted din yung operations. Yung mga tao walang tatrabahuhin, madedelay ang delivery, yung mga customers mag-iintay na matapos makapag-produce ng products natin. Okay? Cost of retirement, pension, or social benefits. Okay? Ito, pinaghahandaan ng companies. Kasi ito, normally over time, ina-accrue siya, may pinaglalaanan ng company. Dapat every year may nakaset aside na or dinadagdag sa retirement fund ng employees para kapag nag-retire yung employees, hindi ba huhugutin yung retirement benefit sa current year lang na finances. Kailangan siya ay meron ng fund na naipon from the time na nagsimulang magtrabaho yung employee. Okay? Kasi kung kunwari, sabay-sabayan, 10 tao nag-retire, so you have to pay the benefits, malaking amount yon. It could mean a significant amount of money na hindi mo kayang kunin basta-basta sa current budget ng company. Okay? So, kailangan siya ay pinaghandaan over a certain period of time. Okay? Desire to deliver greater shareholder value. Okay? So, for you to attract potential shareholders, edi syempre, kailangan maganda yung performance ng company. And for you to make sure na, di ba, performance ng company nakasalalay din sa operations. Okay? Profitability din. Greater transparency required from organizations. Ito would relate to compliance with laws, accounting standards, regulations. Kailangan ay properly documented ang mga transactions, and of course, the processes then, policy ng company, guidelines. Okay? Pace of change in business ever increases. So, with regards to risk management, syempre, kapag merong changes, especially on the aspect of technology usage sa company, so kailangan marunong makisabay ang organization. Okay? And then, ayun nga, pace of change in business. Okay, kailangan ay madaling maka-adapt sa changes. Alright? Impact of e-commerce on all aspects of business life. Yan nga, kapag hindi ka kasi makasabay, mapag-iiwanan ka, and mas mapapabilis yung decline ng company. So, kailangan ay marunong din mag-innovate ng products or services. Increased reliance on information technology systems, increasing importance of intellectual property, especially kapag yung particular industry na nag-operate yung company is dealing with this. Diba? Yung mga films, publishing houses, music labels, ganyan. Greater supply chain complexity or dependency. Ayan. Diba kapag meron kang contract with suppliers, ayan, kailangan ay ma-vet mo na reliable talaga yung supplier mo. Or pati na rin yung on the side ng distributors, wholesalers, retailers, ganyan. Reputation becomes more and more important, so you have to make sure you are abiding with the laws, di ba? Especially mga environment protection, you have your CSR, you are contributing then to the community, di ba? Meron kang mga community extension services to give back to the community, to build up your reputation then. And of course, yung mga values, core values ng mga companies. Make sure na na-upheld talaga siya ng mga employees din. Okay? Ayan. Reputational damage, especially to worldwide brands. High-profile losses and failures ruin reputations. Ayan. Regulatory pressures continue to increase. Yung mga naghihigpit ang mga regulatory agencies. In-audit kayo ng BIR, DOLE, SSS, PhilHealth, Pag-ibig, diba? Minimake sure na yung mga employees nyo ay nababayaran yung mga mandatory contributions. Ayan. Changes or variation in national legislative requirements. Ganun din. About compliance. Joint ventures becoming more common. And before you join joint ventures nga, you have to properly analyze kung viable or feasible ba and magiging profitable yung venture na yan. Okay? Changes in the marketplace. So, marketplace, yung economic situation na. As a player, technically player, yung isang business, kasi aside from that company, meron pang, other players, competitors in the marketplace. Okay, so changing commercial and marketplace environment, kailangan ay mabilis makapag-adapt. Globalization of customers, suppliers, and products. Ang customers nyo, hindi lang local, di ba? If you have an online presence, if you have an online store, so people from around the world can purchase from you. Increased competition in the marketplace, greater customer expectations, often led by competitors. Ayan. So, kapag meron kayong competitors, tapos may innovation sila dun sa product or service, mas maganda. Siyempre, sometimes, yung customers mo would have that expectation na, bakit kayo walang ganun? Okay? Dapat meron din kayong ganyan. Okay? Need to respond more rapidly to stakeholder expectations. So, not only customer expectations, pati rin yung stakeholders. And under ng stakeholders, you have your employees, you have your suppliers, okay? You have the regulatory agencies then. More volatile markets with less customer loyalty, diba? Kung sino yung nangunguna talaga na company, yun yung sinusundan ng customers. Either cost leadership or quality leadership, okay? Diversification leads to working in unfamiliar areas. Alright? Diversification in such that hindi ka lang mag-stick dun sa current nyong operation. Sometimes you have to think of related activities or related business na pwede nyong pasukin. Kasi nga, you have to innovate, okay? Hindi pwedeng stagnant lang yung operations nyo na kung ano yung ginagawa nyo 10 years ago or yun pa din ang ginagawa nyo currently, okay? So there needs to be a change and either addition with regards to your operation. So diversification nga. Constant need to make bold strategic decisions. Short-term success required without long-term detriment. Product innovation and continuous improvements, rapid changes in consumer or product technology, ayan, threats to world or national economy, threat of influenza or other pandemics, currently meron tayo yan. How do the companies respond to that? Potential for international organized crime, increasing occurrences of civil unrest or political risk, extreme weather events resulting in population shift. Ayan. Ano yung mga magiging effect sa company if these things happen and how is the company going to respond? So, in a way, kahit, mababa yung chances na mangyari yung mga yan, have to be prepared or kailangan merong existing plan na agad. Mag-develop ng plan yung company so that when this happens, edi hindi sila nangangapa pa lang, saka pa lang mag-iisip kung anong gagawin. Okay? As early as now, gagawa na sila ng plano kung anong gagawin nila in case this happen. Right? Table 4.3, we have 7 R's and 4 T's of hazard risk management naman. Okay? Okay, ito na yung process mismo ng risk management. So, yung 7 R's, ito, and then you have your 4 T's. Okay, ano yung kaunahan? Recognition or identification of risk and identification of the nature of the risk and the circumstances in which it would materialize. Okay, so recognition, after recognition, you have to identify yung risk. Tapos yung identification ng risk can take into consideration yung kanyang nature and then yung kanyang origin. Saan siya nanggaling, bakit siya nag-materialize. Right? Recognition. Second, you have your ranking or evaluation of risk in terms of magnitude and likelihood to produce the risk profile that is recorded in a risk register. Okay, so ranking or evaluation. Siyempre, hindi naman lahat ng risk seryoso. Hindi naman lahat ng risk ay malaki yung magiging impact sa company. Hindi naman lahat ng risk ay malaki yung chance na mag-occur siya. Okay, so you have to evaluate. Itong particular risk na ito, malaki ba yung chance na mangyari siya? And in case na mangyari siya, gaano kalaki yung, how much would be the impact on the finances of the company or in the operations of the company. So you have to magnitude and analyze in terms of magnitude and likelihood. Okay? Third R, responding to significant risk. Ito na yung pag-a-apply ng treatments. Okay? And yung treatments, it would depend on the type of risk. Okay? Dito sa responding, andito yung 4 T's under niya. Tolerate, kung hindi naman siya masyadong, detrimental to the company, okay lang naman na andyan siya. Okay, so you can tolerate that particular risk. Okay? As long as within the limit or tolerable pa siya, edi tolerate nyo lang. Pero pag nag-go beyond na siya, the tolerance level, and you need to address, you need to treat it already. Okay? Ito na, yung second is treat nga na kailangan ay i-treat yung risk in such that, you're going to apply certain actions to reduce or to minimize yung kanyang effect. Yung example natin, paboritong example, yung theft in a store, or yung segregation of duties in the accounting department. Ayan. So, andun yung risk and the force. Hindi mo naman nahahayaan na andun yung risk. So, you have to implement certain controls. Yung segregation of duties. Magkaiba yung mga tao na tatanggap ng pera. Iba yung magre-record. Tapos, iba rin yung nag-approve ng disbursement ng pera. Okay? So, that's a kind of treatment. Implementation ng controls in the business. Okay? Yung third one is transfer. Ang example nitong transfer is insurance. Okay? You're going to acquire insurance para in case na mangyari yung risky event na yun. Kunwari, fire. 'Di ba? Kung wala kang fire insurance, kapag nasunog ang building nyo, wala kayong makiklaim, 'di ba, sa insurance company. But yung fact na, so na maaring mangyari yung fire at any time. So, 'di ba, andun siya present yung risk na yon. So, you can transfer the risk by acquiring insurance. Okay? So, yun naman siya. Magbabayad ka syempre ng premium para maka-avail ka ng insurance. And kapag nangyari yung fire, edi makaka-claim ka sa insurance company. But if you do not transfer the risk, edi kapag nasunog yung building nyo, wala ka nang mahahabol sa insurance company. And then, of course, parang kayo yung magsushoulder nung pangkalahatang naging loss nyo due to the fire. Okay? Tapos yung terminate, although this is very rare na mati-terminate yung isang particular risk, but there are ways to do that. Kaso it's either the process is going to be, tawag doon, yung medyo nakakairitang process kasi sa sobrang dami ng dadaanan before, let's say, ma-approve ang isang particular transaction. Kumbaga medyo nakaka-turn off siya na gawin, na it's either going to be makaka-turn off siya ng customers, makaka-intimidate siya ng customers. Kunwari yung sa jewelry shop nga, may security guard ka na, naka-CCTV pa, tapos isang customer lang ang pwedeng pumasok doon sa shop. Tapos one-on-one pa kayo nung sales clerk. Okay? So medyo nakaka-intimidate siya, and some people would not like that particular environment. But essentially, yung risk is very much reduced to a very low level, almost going zero. Pero, ayan, technically, hindi pa rin terminate yung risk, kasi merong either syndicate or experienced, tawag doon, magnanakaw, na will still try to steal from jewelry shops, despite the security measures already in place. Okay? But for other businesses, of course, when they try to terminate yung risk, they would have to introduce very strict measures or stringent measures na minsan may inis ang employees or may inis yung kung sino man na would have to go through those measures. Okay? So, ayun. Kumbaga, red tape. Sa government, we have the red tape, to ensure na yung pera is binabayad sa tamang tao, tamang payee. Di ba merong, mga documents required, may bidding pa nga, merong, kailangan ma-deliver muna yung materials before yung payment, kailangan magbigay muna ng OR before yung payment. Maraming trabaho. Okay? Anyway, example lang yan. Although, not exactly termination of risk. Okay, fourth R natin, resourcing controls to ensure that adequate arrangements are made to introduce and sustain necessary control activities. Ayan. So you have your controls in place. Tapos, of course, if it's not working well, you have to improve on it or you have to change something. So you do resourcing control. Okay. Reaction planning and or event management. So for hazard risk, this will include disaster recovery or business continuity planning. Okay, reaction planning, kunwari, sunog. Okay, nasunog yung building, andun yung computers nyo, andun lahat ng files nyo, andun lahat ng gamit nyo for the business. So, kailangan, meron kayong, reaction plan. Do you have a separate building na kung saan ay pwede nyong gamitin to continue yung inyong operations? Okay? Tapos, do you have files in that other place, in that other building, na yun nga, it would not hinder your operations kasi masunog man itong isang building, you still have, you can still do your functions in the other building. Okay? So yan, meron kayong disaster recovery plan or business continuity plan. Okay? Hindi nyo hahayaan na lahat andyan lang sa isang building. Pag nasunog, edi wala na, tigil ang trabaho, tigil ang production. So, in that sense, walang business continuity. Number 6, reporting and monitoring of risk performance. Siyempre, kailangan alamin nyo kung ano na nangyayari dun sa mga risk. namomonitor ba siya, nami-maintain siya at a particular level, hindi ba siya, kumbaga hindi nag-i-increase yung possibility niya na siya ay mangyari. Okay? Tapos, kailangan siyang i-communicate to the, respected people that would need the information din naman. So, you have your events, communicating on risk issues by the risk architecture of the organization. Last, number 7, review. Reviewing the risk management system, including internal audit, procedures, and arrangements for the review, and updating of the risk architecture, strategy, and protocols. Okay? So, etong risk architecture, strategy, and protocols, ito yung key components ng ating risk management. Ayan. Na kailangan nga, you monitor the risk management plan and then you review, is it effective or do we need improvements or do some of these do not work? Okay, remove na natin yung mga hindi gumagana. I-retain ang mga gumagana and then yung mga kailangan ng improvements, i-improve natin, syempre. Okay? So, yun yung 7 R's and 4 T's. Okay? I already realized. Okay? Yung bulk pala ng discussion andito sa chapter na to. Okay? Kasi risk management na talaga yung discussion. Alright? So, ayun. Ito na yung 7 R's, ni-reiterate lang dito. So, yung risk management can improve the management of the core processes of an organization, ensuring that key dependencies are analyzed, monitored, and reviewed. Normally, sa isang plan, itong tatlo, dito mawawala. Analysis, monitoring, and then review. Okay? Tapos ay paulit-ulit lang yan. After yung review, edi you make a change if necessary, and then you analyze ulit, monitor, review. Okay? Yung mga risk management tools and techniques, they will assist with the management of hazard risk, control risk, and opportunity risk. Okay? Ayan. Ito yung figure niya. Essentially, ito yung 7 R's. Tapos, andito yung 4 T's. So, I have your recognition, ranking, responding, resource, reaction, reporting, and then review. Tapos, itong mga to, itong responding to risk, reaction planning and reporting. So, you have your information feedback. Gagamitin mo siya dito, pabalik dito. Ranking of risk. Baka mamaya, more significant pala itong isa. Ay, ayun. Lipat pa, baguhin nyo yung ranking. And then, of course, baka mamaya, upon review din, ma-realize ka, merong another risk pala na exposed tayo. So, yun. You recognize the risk. Okay? And then, on the other hand, itong resourcing controls, saka reviewing and monitoring, you have your experience feedback. Itong experience feedback, ganun din, ginagamit sa possible recognition of new risk and then ranking of risk. Okay? Measuring yung kanilang significance. Right? Ayan. So, next subtopic, insurance origins of risk management. Medyo, historical lang dating nito. You have your in the US in the 1950s. Ayan. Tapos in the 1960s, contingency planning became more important to organizations. In contingency planning, kumbaga you're preparing for uncertain things. Okay, prepare for uncertainty. So essentially parang risk management na rin siya. There was also an emphasis beyond risk financing to loss prevention and safety management. Okay, so yung risk financing nga, ito, parang contingency planning, pinaghahandaan mong yung mga kagastusan na, although hindi naman siya yung planned expenses na kapag nangyari kasi siya, gagastos syempre yung company. So, you have your risk financing. And then, from there, nag-move nga sila into loss prevention. Loss prevention, kunwari yung fire, diba? Pag nasunog, you're going to lose the building and your resources. Okay? And then, safety din, kasi nga, one of the requirements naman ng law, have to make sure that the workplace is safe for your employees. Okay? Ayan. Tapos, self-insurance and risk retention practices developed within organizations in the 1970s. Ito yung time na yung mga insurance companies is na-exploit din naman. So, they became stricter. But then, in a way, tumaas yung mga premiums. Ganyan, naging expensive ang insurance. So, some companies decided to do self-insurance na lang instead of getting insurance outside. Okay? They do that naman by, setting aside their funds na lang. Okay? Contingency plans then developed into business continuity planning and disaster recovery plans. Okay? Financial institutions continued to develop the application of risk management tools and techniques to market and credit risk. Okay? Since financial institutions, meron ng inherent risk kasi sila either handling money, monetary resources, so they are exposed to market and credit risk. So they already have existing risk management for this particular risk lang naman. Okay? These are in the 1980s. Okay? Tapos, noong 1990s, nagkaroon naman ng structured consideration of operational risk naman. Okay? Tapos, 1980s, bumalik sa 1980s, Treasury departments began to develop the financial approach to risk management. Tapos, kinumbine na yung insurance with derivatives. So, you have your insurance and then, in a way, parang naging investment na rin siya. So, combination of hazard risk and opportunity risk, ang naging dating. Alright, tapos, na-develop din ang Enterprise Risk Management, ERM. Okay, tapos nagkaroon ng appointment, new position, Chief Risk Officer. Okay. This is in the 1990s. Okay, tapos 2000s, new millennium, financial services firms have been encouraged to develop internal risk management systems and capital models. Okay, 2000s, ayan na, 2002, nangyari yung Enron scandal. You have your global financial crisis. And then 2008, housing bubble in the US, then financial crisis then. Ayan, so with regards to risk management, nauna sila sa, insurance companies, banks, kasi, finances yung kanilang nature ng industry. And then, the other one is energy companies, okay? Mga nagpo-produce ng electricity. Okay? Kasi, in a way, medyo, tawag yun, efficiency. They would require efficiency din. Kasi nga, di ba, limited yung source ng ating energy. Ayan. Tapos, 2002, after the Enron, ayan, nagkaroon tayo ng Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2002. Tapos, ayan, I think around this time din develop pa ng mas maayos yung enterprise risk management. Kaya siya, yan, tinawag na enterprise risk management nga. Kasi nga, they realize na hindi mo pwedeng i-separate yung pag-manage ng risk. And it has to be embedded in all the aspects of the business, enterprise-wide. Okay? Ayan. This failure, yung 2008, kasi nga you have your 2002, tapos they introduce itong Sarbanes-Oxley Act as a, parang control siya as additional measure of protection. But even then, nagkaroon pa rin tayo ng 2008 financial crisis. So they're saying na hindi gaano ka-effective yung risk management. But they're saying na yung failure is because they failed to correctly apply risk management processes and procedures rather than inherent defects in the risk management approach. Okay? Yung risk management, it's going to be a sound, and what do you call it? Sound resolution, theoretically, but implementation-wise, dun kasi nagkakaroon ng problem. If during the implementation is hindi naging maayos yung processes and procedures. So, yun. Kaya naging failure pa din at nagkaroon tayo ng 2008 financial crisis. Right? Next subtopic natin, specialist areas of risk management. So, ito, kumbaga, applicable lang to specific areas, specialized areas. Okay? Over the years, ito yung mga particular areas na nagkaroon ng specific risk management. Okay, you have your project risk management, clinical, medical risk management, energy risk management, and then operational risk management. Okay? Itong project risk management, ang emphasis niya ay management of uncertainty or control risk. Tapos yung clinical risk management concerned with patient care, especially during surgical operations, so more on hospitals and clinics. Finance and energy sectors naman, kasi nga very limited ang ating source of electricity or energy. So yan, they need to be very efficient in efficiency. Di ba efficiency is utilization of limited resource and maximizing the output using limited resources. Ayan. So yung focus on operational risk as well as market, credit, and other types of financial risk. Ayan. Pinagsama ang finance and energy for some reason. Okay, tapos yung energy sector, future price of energy, and with exploration risk. Okay. Kasi sometimes, energy sector, they're trying to find other sources of energy, but it's going to be risky kasi nga, you're not sure how much energy you're going to get from that possible source, kung meron man. Kasi baka mamaya, yung projection mo, hindi mag-materialize, after the exploration, kukunti lang pala yung energy na available doon. So, yes, that's a risk. Okay, next we have enterprise risk management or enterprise-wide risk management. Ayan, integrated or holistic approach na siya, unifying philosophy that draws together management of all types of risk. Okay? So, kumbaga, hindi nga siya yung, hindi siya nakaseparate, wala naman tayong risk management department. Okay, essentially, yung mga risk measures, activities, controls, naka-embed na siya sa procedures ng bawat department ng isang company. Okay, so have your control measures in the accounting department, in the HR, diba, in the hiring process, in the training and development of the employees. Tapos you have your operations mismo, efficiency of operations, then you have your sales and credit. Kailangan ay mapataas ang revenue ng company, maximize, and then you have your collection department, make sure na nakakollect na maayos ang receivables ng company. You have your customer service department, make sure the customers are satisfied, their expectations are met, and their feedback are taken into consideration kapag nagkakaroon ng changes in the inner production of the company or any other aspect of the company. So yan, integrated approach. Lahat sila ay magkaka-connect, interrelated, and all of them have their specific controls na naka-apply para ma-minimize or ma-eliminate yung risk present in their specific departments or part of the business. Okay? So, yan. Analysis of the supply chain. Okay, so you have your purchasing department. Syempre, di ba? From the purchasing department, you have to vet yung reliability nga ng suppliers and the quality of the materials that they're going to supply. Okay? Kasi from suppliers, operations, and then you have your warehouse. From the warehouse, you have your distributors. Okay? To the customers. Okay, and then we have your evaluation of the manufacturing activities. Kung efficient ba na ma-maximize yung limited resource to maximize the output. Okay? Analysis of the delivery arrangements sa logistics ito. After production, nadidistribute ba agad siya sa mga wholesalers or resellers ng company? Nakakarating ba agad sa customers sa mga stores sa market? Okay? Risk to the continuous supply will include unavailability of ingredients, disruption of manufacturing activities, contamination of the product, ayan, another risk din ito. You have your reliable supplier, pero andun pa rin yung possibility na baka mamaya contaminated yung materials, input. So, pag ginamit mo sa products, could contaminate the product as well. Diba? Especially if nasa food industry ito. Breakdown in supply transportation arrangement and disruption to distribution. Okay. Tapos the other one, health and safety. Staff are always available then. So, have to make sure, diba, yung mga yung mga gumagamit ng machinery, especially yung mga merong hazard risk, na let's say merong mga blades sa machineries or cutters or kung ano man, kailangan yung mga workers ay may safety equipment na gamit para in case, di ba, accidents, mapadikit sila dun sa mga blades or whatever. Hindi sila agad-agad may injured, magkakaroon ng sugat or injury. Okay, next, levels of risk management, sophistication. Ano to? There is a need for organizations to reform in response to the hazard risk. So, seek to conform with the appropriate risk control standards, ability to perform and view the risk as an opportunity risk. Okay. Reform in response to the hazard risk. So, kumbaga, tawag dito. When the hazard risks are there, you have to recognize them and then create a plan how you're going to treat those risks. Tapos conform with the appropriate risk control standards. This would pertain to compliance with regulations. Tapos ability to perform the efficiency ito of operations and risk. Tawag doon. Hindi naman aversion. Yung pagtanggap ng risk. Risk acceptance with regards to opportunity cost. Okay? If they do. Okay, so ito nga, complies with legal requirements. Itong sa conform, exploring opportunities. Itong sa perform. Okay, so ito yung sophistication, reform muna, hazard management. Kasi ito naman yung existing talaga. Hazard risk are existing in almost every organization. So you have to check yung treatments mo muna dito sa hazard management. So you have your tolerance, inhibit, failure, avoid, okay, fearful of requirements. Kasi normally, merong mga laws din na ina-address yung hazards in the workplace. Okay? Tapos, after ensuring na nag-comply ka dito sa reform, kailangan ang kasunod ay, ito, conform. Control management naman siya. Acceptance ng risk. Tapos, yung doubt with regards to the goals and objectives ng company. Achievable ba yung mga yan? Realistic? Ganyan. And then you have your uncertainties with regards to the activities, and then you have to minimize the risk. Okay? So, ito naman, auditing compliance. Just in case i-check kayo, di ba, ng mga regulatory agencies, you can show that we are in fact compliant with the rules and regulations, and we are also doing our best to address yung mga control risk that we have. Okay? And then, dito sa performance naman, opportunity management, achievement of benefits, kasi nga, di ba yung opportunity risk, they could either go both ways, pwedeng good, can gain profit, or bad, you would suffer losses in your investment. So, dito sa opportunity management, you have your investment in hand, di ba? It could get more profit, and then it could succeed, and then could seek out more opportunities kapag nag-succeed dito. Ayan. So, ito yung sophistication level, and then you have your contribution level ng risk management. Okay? Danger that organizations will become obsessed with risk management to the point that important decisions are not taken. Okay? So, at this point, it may be said that too much attention and concern about risk and risk management will cause the organization to deform its operations. So, kumbaga, wag naman masyadong obsessed sa pag-address ng risk. Kasi baka mamaya hindi naman significant yung risk, tapos pinipilit mong i-address. Sayang yung resources, sayang yung time, tapos mag-i-introduce ka ng controls na, red tape lang, makakaabala lang sa tao, sa procedures. So, best not to. Kasi in that case, deform yung operations. Okay? So ito yung apat, awareness of non-compliance, reform, you have to comply, and then actions to ensure compliance, you have to conform, comply with the requirements, perform, so after complying with the requirements, we can now seek out other opportunities for us, so achieve business opportunities. And then kapag, nagkaroon ng obsession naman, so deform, an activity caused by obsession. Ayan. So, yung hazard management specialist, they may find that there has been a trend towards a desire to retain more insurable risk and buy less insurance as a result of a more holistic approach to risk management. Okay? Control management specialists must not squeeze entrepreneurial spirit and effort out of the organization. Okay, wag masyadong i-inhibit yung mga ideas na meron ng mga managers, employees. Strategic planners must recognize that risk management tools and techniques can contribute to better strategic decisions and the successful exploitation of business opportunities. Okay? Ayan. Kasi pang long term naman, itong strategic plan. Risk maturity models, kasunod natin. So, yung level of risk maturity, di ba yung sa business cycle, we have your startup, tapos yung startup, pag naging successful siya, magkakaroon ng growth, and then yung growth, kapag ang kasunod na niya is maturity, di ba, pag naging efficient na siya in the operations, tapos after the maturity, you have the decline, kapag hindi sila nakasabay with the innovation in the market. Ganyan. So, yung level of risk maturity and measure of the quality of risk management activities and the extent to which they are embedded within the organization. So, much better if during the business cycle, naka-embed na din yung risk maturity, level of risk maturity ng isang company. In an immature organization, informal risk management practices will take place. Kumbaga, wala pang written policies, medyo nagbabago-bago pa yung mga risk treatment. Minsan, papayagan na ganito na lang yung gawin, mamaya iba na yung gagawin, ganyan. Okay, so informal pa. Medyo immature pa yung organization. Tapos, there is likely to be a blame culture, lack of accountability. Yung nagtuturoan, ikaw kasi hindi mo in-address, hindi mo sinabi sa amin na ganyan pala yung mangyayari. Tapos sabi niya, sinabi ko kaya sa inyo, pero sabi niya, go pa din. Okay lang, ganyan. Nagkakaroon ng ganyan. Blame culture, tapos lack of accountability. Also, resources allocated to manage risk may be inappropriate for the level of risk involved. In a way, kasi immature pa sila, inexperienced pa din, wala pa sila masyadong experience with regards to the effects of risk. So, minsan, either under allocation or over allocation to the risk. Pag over allocation, normally, inefficiency ang result kasi sa halip na ginamit sa operations, di ba? Tapos yun namang isa, under allocation, kulang pala yung sinet aside na pera or resource to address yung risk or effect of risk. Okay? So yun naman, the consequence, possible na hindi ma-address na maayos yung risk. Okay? Explicit risk management is in place. Kapag daw ganun yung situation, there will be attempts to keep the processes dynamic, relevant, and useful. Okay? Kumbaga meron ng risk management, explicit siya in such that, let's say, nasa policy, nasa manual, naka-embed na sa processes and procedures ng company. So, ayan. So, keep na yung processes, then make them dynamic, relevant, and useful, syempre. There is likely to be an open dialogue and learning so that information is used to inform judgments and decisions. Okay? There will be confidence that innovation and risk-taking can be managed. Tapos with support when things go wrong. Hindi yung magsisisihan. Kumbaga, even if it becomes a failure, merong, backup plans on what we can do to manage pa rin yung risk ng particular failure na yun. Ayan. Tapos ito naman yung kanina, deform, risk obsession. Overdependence on process may limit the ability to manage risk effectively. So let's say nagkaroon sila ng meron nang manual. Kaso, 'di ba, changing time, especially with the use of technology, merong mga changes din na maghaganap. Pero yung iba mag-stick dun sa kanilang ginawa na plan, without considering yung mga new information available. So, yun, it could be detrimental to the company kapag nililimit yung ability to manage risk effectively. Ayan. Nagkaroon ng over-reliance on information at the expense of good judgment and dependence on process. Ayan. Individuals may become risk-averse for fear of criticism, and procedures are followed only to comply with requirements, not because benefits are sought. Okay. So yeah, because of changes in the workplace, in the market, sometimes yung mga written procedures na sometimes it would not work. Okay, so you have to make a new analysis of the matter. Pero sometimes nga, since you don't want to be blamed in case you don't follow the written procedures, at yung nangyayari, nagiging risk-averse yung isang individual. Sundin ko na lang yung nasa manual kasi may manual naman. Baka mamaya masisi pa ako pag hindi ko sinunod yung manual. Okay? So, ayun. Tapos na pala ang ating chapter 4. Risk management. So, ayan. Hanggang dito na lang. Thank you and Bye.